Welcome back to VLSI for all. And I'm Neeraj Charyala back with yet another interview. And this one is going to be very special as we have Saptarshi Halder joining us. He has recently joined Google as an RTL design engineer. So brace yourself for multitude of questions and answers coming your way in this interview. So before joining Google, he has been working in Intel as an IP logic designer for almost 3 years now. And he has got an MTech degree in microelectronics and VLSI and a BTech degree in electronics and communications engineering from JADAVPUR University. And the MTech degree that he has got is from IIT Bombay, if I missed that. So I take all the pleasure to welcome Saptashi Halder to our channel. Thank you, Saptashi, for accepting our request and joining us today. We are very glad to have you here.
Thanks a lot, or thanks a lot, Neeraj. Thanks a lot for having me. So it's of course an honor to meet here, meet you people, and be here.
Yeah, thanks a lot. So you must be on cloud nine now, very happy cracking Google to be part of their in-house chip design team. So what's everyone saying? What are your closed ones saying? And how are you feeling, by the way? Can you please share your feelings with our audience?
Yeah, of course. So basically, I am happy, and so is my family. So always my mother's dream job, and of course, my dream job was Google, because from morning to night, whatever we do, starting from searching in Google, Google Maps, and our Android phone, everything is based on some, like, Google is touching the lives of millions of people all over the world. And as you can see in their tagline also, that build for everyone. So I was always kind of inspired by the idea that building a product that can touch the lives of everyone. And when I saw, but still, since I am from an electronics background, and by the time I joined engineering, Google was mostly working on the software domain. So that is why I never got the opportunity. But now, since for the last 2 years, they have started working on silicon development as well, as is many other companies like Apple, Amazon, Facebook, and many other companies as such, like Tesla as well. So, and they have started their, started expanding in India maybe a couple of years ago, I think 1 or 2 years ago. And so then when I got a chance to be a part of that, of course, it's a very, very big achievement for me.
Of course, you must be feeling very happy, and it's a quite an achievement because being part of a company which impacts our lives, daily lives, and that too being part of their chip design ecosystem is something very special because
Of course.
most of us only know that Google is into software domain. I mean, who are not very accustomed to the entire VLSI and electronics thing. They only know Google as a
Yes,
software company. But
of course, of course.
those they would not know that that software which Google is building and uh, many workloads which are going into data centers of Google are running on specialized chips built by uh,
Yes.
hardware engineers at Google.
Yes, of course. So basically, so if we see even like 5 years ago, all the big software companies like Amazon, Google, Facebook, so they used to, you can say, take the chips from the chip vendors like Intel, AMD, Nvidia. But now their complexity of the design and compute complexity is going by far, and the conventional chip vendors sometimes can't meet the expectations of those companies, because they sometimes have very specific workload. So that is why these big software giants are now getting big on hardware development as well. So almost every software giant now has an in-house chip development team, and India is most often a very big part of that. So that's why I think it's a very good days of the VLSI industry as a whole.
Yeah, true, Saptarshi. So, could you please introduce yourself? Although I have talked about your career a bit, we want to hear it from you, right from your
Yes,
intermediate to your MTech
sure,
and after. Yeah.
sure. So I was born and brought up in Kolkata, and my schooling, my undergrad, that was in Kolkata, as you said, in Jadavpur University. And after I finished my BTech, so then I appeared in GATE, and I fortunately secured All India rank 50 in my first attempt itself when I was in the fourth year of my college. And after that, so I was always in a dilemma whether to join IIT Bombay. I got an offer from there or to go to PSU, but finally, after considering the pros and cons, I went ahead with the PSU offer. So, but after joining there, I wasn't getting that kick. So somehow the work was, I thought, kind of monotonic, and mostly the routine work I was getting. And the field that I love, that is electronics or VLSI, that was kind of missing. So that's when I decided that no, if I have to spend my life on any domain, it will be VLSI. And that's when I kind of quit the company after almost 1 year, slightly less than 1 year, and then join IIT Bombay. And after that, spent 2 years there in my MTech, and those 2 years I think is the most remarkable part of my life. So not only in terms of the education, but also the campus life and everything, and the peer group that you are a part of, that is also very important. And the connections you make, like your many of your seniors are now some director level, principal engineers level at multiple companies, not only in India but also abroad. So that I really loved, that environment. And then in the campus interview, I got a few offers, but I chose Intel. So, and yeah, of course, 3 years of Intel has been a very good experience. Okay, I learned a lot, and the people were quite supportive as well. But after that, like a company like Intel is kind of rich in legacy, but since they are a very old company, they don't really go for developing things from scratch more often than not, I would say. Now, that is the reason when I saw companies like Google coming in, they are developing a lot of things from scratch. Then I thought that, okay, why not developing things from that? I mean, I wanted to see the full 360-degree view of a full design cycle also. So that is when I decided that let's give it a go. So yeah,
Yeah, that's interesting. We'll come back to the PSU part and the peer group part later in this interview again.
of
So,
course.
like coming from a tier two college, I have this doubt usually. I mean, uh, uh, from when did the Google start recruiting hardware engineers from India, and for what
Mm.
roles do they recruit? Like, can you please talk
Yeah.
about? Yeah, from
Okay.
India.
So there are, of course, so there are multitudes of roles. For example, you can see roles in the RTL design, RTL verification, physical design, power, and all the roles that you can think of in the VLSI industry as a whole. You also have emulation engineer and this sort of thing. I think also kind of firmware engineering is also there. So whatever roles you can think of in the VLSI industry, India is a big part of that, not only in Google, but also most of the other big companies as such. So, yeah. So, if you have a friend who is already working in Google, then you can get referred by him or her. And if you are not, then also no trouble. You can always go ahead and apply in their career portal or their LinkedIn portal. So, as far as I know, the HRs and the hiring managers, they take a look at them periodically. And also, if you see any advertisement coming from the HR or sometimes the hiring manager, you can directly ping her or him and submit your resume. And if you get a call, then of course you have to go ahead with the interview process and all. But yeah, I think now a company like Google, and for that matter a lot of other big tech giants like Amazon, so they are hiring a lot of VLSI engineers. So it's a very great time to join these companies, I believe.
Yeah, even I've seen Apple also recruiting recently, but it was for the physical design role, I guess. So,
Yes,
yeah,
yes,
yeah.
yes.
So were they
Okay,
also
but
recruiting
yeah,
for
so but
RTL?
I believe like maybe in a couple of months or a few years you will see RTL design roles as well.
Okay.
So let's keep fingers crossed. Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, how did you get this opportunity to interview with Google?
Yeah, so in my case, I had a friend already working there, so I was a bit lucky in that case. So he referred me, and after that, I get a call. But yeah, like it is not mandatory that you should always have a friend. But I know many people who just went ahead and you know applied in their portal in LinkedIn or their Google's career page, and they also got a call. So,
Yeah, so I mean, it's quite interesting to know that Google is giving chances. I mean,
of
it was
course.
not difficult, right, to get the call because I mean,
No, no.
you
See,
may have got
I
the
won't say,
experience from
yeah.
Intel.
So basically, I would say that, see, difficult or not, that depends on a lot of factors. So whether like the skill set that they are expecting, if that is matching your resume. For example, they can be expecting 5 years of experience and you have 2 years of experience, then it might be difficult. But if you go through the all the vacancies that is published in their career page, there are vacancies for almost all levels of experience. It can be for 2 to 3 years, it can be 5 to 10 years, and everything. So that is why if you go ahead and apply for the job that suits your experience level and your skill set, I believe that getting a call is not so difficult. But of course, once after getting the call, the interview process is rigorous, but that's a different ball game altogether.
Yeah, we'll come to that about your interview process. So, and what sort of chips does engineers usually build for Google? I mean, I've heard a few of them, like the TPU and the video coding unit for YouTube, and
Mhm,
also recently we have seen Tensor SoC for mobiles. And
mhm.
are these the chips that you would work upon in future at Google, or else? I mean, are there any other chips?
Yeah, yeah, of course. So yeah, the chips that you mentioned, they are kind of the flagship chips made by Qualcomm, and they are kind of famous in the VLSI industry. But and specifically, I will be joining their consumer hardware team, who then that team is making, you can say, the consumer hardware products. For example, mobile, as you mentioned, SoC. Okay, so that our team will be building. And there are also, if you follow the recent IO event of Google, you can see plethora of hardware coming from Google. For example, the Google Nest is already there, Chromecast is already there, and so Google Pixel is coming up with tablet. They are coming up with smartwatch based on their Fitbit. So, and also in some of the news I got that there will be like more hardware in that line of products. Okay, so if I can't disclose everything, of course, but yeah, so there are multiple projects going on in the hardware, consumer hardware segment, and also in the cloud segment and their data center segment. So I am personally joining the consumer hardware, and mostly I will be working on the Tensor SE, maybe some IPs. So if you by any chance buy a Pixel phone, the Pixel 6 is coming to India, if you know. So maybe in the upcoming versions, so my hands will be on it if you are using it.
Maybe you would be one of the first ones to get that after it's released.
Yeah, I think it will be the second or third generation that I will be working on. But people who joined maybe 2 years back, they worked on the first generation.
Yeah, and Google might gift you uh, after it's released.
Let's see. Yeah,
Yeah,
I hope so.
yeah. So coming to your interview now, Google interview process. So can you
Mhm.
please talk about the selection process for Google, especially for RTL design engineer?
Yeah, so basically they have, at my level at least, they had like I have 3 years of experience, so at my level they have 4 rounds of interview. So three of them will be technical and one will be based on HR, and it is not, you can say, conventional HR round. That is mostly like leadership round, you can say. So they will give you kind of very tricky scenarios, and they will check that how much is your leadership skill and how good is your you can say like a team spirit that you build. Okay, so how you can collaborate with other people, that is very important to them, right? Because when you are working in the corporate world, you can be a genius, but if you can't work within a team, and you can't be a good team player, then it is very difficult to build a very strong team, right? So that is what they will test in the fourth round. And in the technical rounds, I would say they will mostly focus on your problem solving skill, like how you can think out of the box, how you approach a tricky problem. That is, some there will be some theoretical questions as well, but mostly it will be problem solving skill and your approach to solve a tricky problem, I would say.
Okay, so how are they testing this problem solving skill? Like, is it with respect to some circuits which they give us and we have to solve them?
Yeah, of course.
Like, can you
Like if
please?
you are from the design, yes, if you are from the design domain, they can give you a problem and you have to kind of implement the whole circuit, starting from the microarchitecture, all the algorithm if you use that you can use, and after that you have to write a full Verilog code. Okay, so I can't really disclose the questions that were asked because I signed on an agreement, secrecy agreement. Okay, so but yeah, so by and large, if you see, you have to solve a problem from top to bottom. Okay, that is a design problem. So and you will get time, like one interview will be like of for 45 minutes, and among that maybe 20 to 25 minutes you can be given for solving a tricky problem. Okay, and rest of the 15 to 20 minutes they can ask you conceptual questions, and maybe based on your design also they can ask question that if you can optimize this, you can, for example, when you say implement one design. Okay, so there can be multiple optimizations. Say you optimize for area, you optimize for power, right? So you can be asked those things, that how you can optimize it for power or area, or how you can balance this load, this kind of things. So you need to have a very strong fundamental of design if you want to make it there.
Yeah, basically fundamentals of digital electronics and computer architecture, you're saying?
Yes. So, for example, it depends on role. I was not asked questions on computer architecture, but if your role demands that, you can be, for example, if you are working on, say, CPU or some CPU interconnect, then you can, like, there can be rigorous questions on computer architecture as well. So it depends on the things that the role will demand. Okay, but by and large, I would say that the topics that you need to really brush up are uh, we the basics of VLSI, like basic gate level or BTech level VLSI that you have already studied, that you have to brush up. And after that, Verilog coding is extremely important. Okay, you need to have a hands-on experience on that. And apart from that, important topics are static timing analysis, clock domain crossing, linting, RTL, some parts of RTL synthesis, that is also important. So I think if you are very strong with this kind of fundamentals and also have some idea about the low power design, so because if you are in the consumer hardware domain, low power design is very important, right? Yes, and also you have some basic idea on the ARM buses and ARM processor. So then I think it is it at least put a tick on all the boxes, and after that it depends on the performance and slightly on your luck as well.
Yeah, so you're saying that whatever questions that Google has asked you in your interview were related to
Mhm.
these concepts?
Mostly these concepts, I would say.
Okay. So so
Yes.
all of these are kind of basics, right?
Yeah,
That
all
we
of these are kind
learn
of
at BTech
basics,
or
but
MTech level.
yes, BTech or MTech level basics. See,
Okay.
they will
But
not
yeah,
yes,
I
expect
got it.
that you
Problem
will
solving skill.
know everything. Yes, problem solving skill is their main area. And
Okay.
if they are hiring for a specific domain, for example, if they are hiring for multimedia domain, okay, then they may expect that you know at least some basics of multimedia. Or if they are hiring for security domain, then very basics of security. But I would say 90% emphasis is given on your problem solving skill. That is what I at least experienced in my case.
Like, I mean, this is a request. Can you please just give us a glimpse of one challenging question that you have faced? I mean, just a model kind of
I
thing
am
at
really
least.
sorry because I signed on agreement not to
Okay.
disclose any question. Yes, but I mean, I would say that even if you are undergoing the interview, even you can't make it, the interview process itself is a very good learning
Uh-huh.
experience. Okay,
Okay.
so unfortunately, if you can't make it for the first time, but you will learn a lot from those interviews, and maybe
Okay.
after, I think after 6 months you can
Okay.
reapply. So it
Okay.
will be a, so next time if maybe fortune smiles
Hmm.
on you. So yeah, I think interview process itself is really challenging and really
Understood.
great, I would say, and kind of unique with respect to most other companies.
Okay. So, as per your knowledge, how many hardware engineers or firmware engineers even on an average
Hmm.
does Google hire in an year in India?
Mm,
If you have any
I
knowledge
am
on
really sorry, I have no idea about it
okay.
because I haven't yet visited the campus.
Campus.
So yeah, once I visit, I can give that answer.
Yeah. So it's in Bangalore, right? The campus which you will be
Yes,
joining.
it's in Bangalore. Yes,
Okay.
Bangalore.
So in Bangalore, what are all the teams present? I mean, if you know about it.
So in Bangalore, there is this consumer hardware segment, if I
Okay.
understand correctly, and also I got some in some LinkedIn posts that there, the data center chip division is also coming to
Oh,
India.
okay.
Yes, so and I also saw in the LinkedIn that, and also in their career page, that they are hiring for, you can say, director level people right now to lead their
Oh,
team in
okay.
the cloud or compute ASIC division for the data center.
Yeah.
So we can hope that in a matter of few months we will see another round of very big placement drives in that
Yeah.
domain as well.
Yeah. We are very much interested to apply for Google. Prepare
Yeah,
hard
of
if
course.
it's
Of course, why not?
yeah. So apart from Bangalore, where is Google present across India?
That hardware division is only in Bangalore, but
Bangalore.
their
Okay.
software division is also present in other cities like Hyderabad and most
Okay.
likely in Gurgaon as well.
Okay. So by software, do you mean firmware, or else is firmware also present in Bangalore?
The firmware, I am not very sure about the firmware, but the hardware is present in Bangalore
Yeah.
only.
Okay. Cool. Thank you, Saptarshi. Uh,
Sure.
so what was the difference that you have observed when in Google interviewers when compared to Intel and any other companies? Like we have heard that
Sure.
you have also
S-
been selected in Samsung, AMD, Qualcomm. So what was the difference between the interviewers of all these companies
yes,
and the
yes.
interviewers at Google?
Yes, sure. Yes, so as such, yeah, I applied for multiple companies, as you said, like Qualcomm, AMD, Texas Instruments, Samsung, and Google as well. Uh, See, if you see the difference, like most of the other companies, they focus on your job experience and your theoretical knowledge. Okay, so they will go through your CV, ask you questions like how you have implemented this, how you have implemented that, or they will go for theoretical question like how the clock domain crossing works, how STA works, these kind of things. But problem solving is given, but that is maybe 30% of the whole interview. But in Google, it is the other way around. Like 70-80% of the focus is on problem solving, 20-30% is on the domain knowledge. Okay. So now I won't get into which one is a better approach, but it's just different, you can say. Yeah.
Okay. And in your technical interviews or the HR interview, were there any puzzle-based questions? Not technical, but just puzzles, logical
It was
puzzles.
all technical here. Puzzle type of questions are mostly asked in like in software engineering interviews, and also in campus interviews. Also, some of the companies were asking puzzles. But as far as experience level is concerned, nobody asked me any puzzle. Yeah.
Okay.
But we never know. Like some interviewer may like to ask puzzles, so it is not a
Yeah.
recommendation not to solve puzzle.
Yeah.
So yeah, it
Got
depends.
it. So coming to Intel now. So you have been working with Intel as the IP logic design engineer for 3 years.
Yes,
So
yes.
how has been your experience at Intel as an employee,
Yeah,
especially as a logic designer?
Yes, of course. So yeah, it's been great. I mean, I got a really good team, a great manager, and everyone was helpful, and the work-life balance was really great. So I enjoyed the time. Okay, so work quality-wise, I never had any kind of complaint against Intel. But as you see, that the learning curve was also good in Intel. So I really like to develop things from scratch, and that is why I prefer to join Google. But the experience with Intel was quite good always.
Yeah, I've seen that you have posted some learning belts or badges from Intel. Like, what are those related to? I mean,
Yes, so as a part of our work, like I was in the Ethernet domain or the data center domain, the most of the chip that we used to build were going to the servers, right? So in the servers, there are some protocols which are important, for example, Ethernet protocol, PCI protocol, right? So for those things, we had to train ourselves, we had to kind of skill ourselves, right? So that is why I underwent multiple trainings and which and got certificates and also in the server domain, security is extremely important, right? So is in the consumer hardware domain. So so most of them are related to those things only.
yeah. And your like, what are all the projects that you were involved in? Like, what are those projects related to at least?
Yes, so I again I can't disclose everything due to the confidentiality clauses
No,
given by
what are the
Intel.
domains
But yeah,
of the
it was
project?
yeah. So the domain was mainly the cloud and server chips. Okay, so mostly we used to make the Ethernet controllers. So if you see right now, all the big cloud service providers like Google, Amazon, Microsoft, right? So they want very powerful chips to cater to their need. For example, for 400 Gbps, 800 Gbps of Ethernet controllers they need. Okay, so those kind of high performance chips we used to make in Intel, and it was of course a really great learning experience for me.
Yeah, like, I mean, from the few of the employees who are working in logic design team at Intel, like I've heard that they've got some stories during their job at Intel because those chips would be directly involved, I mean, in practice, right? Like, did you have any scenarios wherein the impact of your chip of the chips that you were building on was visible to you?
Yeah, of course. For example, the chip that we worked on, I can't disclose the names of those
Huh.
companies, but
Mm.
we had collaboration with very big tech giants, you can say. So the chips that we were making were kind of powering some of the big servers that you are using now. Okay, so maybe when you open the social media or when you go and search in the internet, so there will be like billions of computations in the background, right? And the chip that we were making uh, were catering to those needs. Okay, so we see that okay, Google is giving us the result, but it's no magic. In their server or in the back end, there are billions of chips doing the job. So those kind of chips were built by us in Intel. So yeah, so it was a of course a big satisfaction that things that you were doing is touching the lives of billions of people without them knowing the reality.
Yeah, without them knowing the reality.
Yes.
But it's even bigger now since you have joined Google. They will now know
Yeah,
it,
I hope so.
at least.
Yeah, so of
Since you have
course,
joined anyway consumer hardware segment, right?
of course, yeah.
Yeah. So what was your
So
selection process at Intel?
in Intel, I was given an offer from the campus itself. So in the campus interview, I only had one round of interview. It depends. Like sometimes you have two rounds. Sometimes if your first round is really good, then you can be selected in the first round itself. And some emphasis is also given on your performance in the college. For example, the project that you have worked on. If that project is quite good, they are impressed by that. Then you always have a competitive edge. And say if your CPI or the percentage of marks, you say credit point as so if that part is good, then also you will have an edge, of course.
So, like, how many rounds were there for you?
For me, only one
Yeah.
round.
Oh, okay, only one round. And what were they focusing on during that round?
They were focusing on mostly the MTech level digital circuits, because if you are a college fresher, they will not expect much from you, right? So most of the things that we studied in our MTech, that were asked, and some questions from the project that I was doing in my MTech. So that's all.
Okay. So having worked at Intel for 3 years, like what are your suggestions for freshers who want to get into Intel to crack their interviews, both
Yes.
for off-campus ones, especially?
Off campus, yeah.
Yeah.
So I would say that, see, cracking interview is no magic. If your fundamentals are clear and if your logical sense is good, which can always be improved by practicing more and more, I think you can literally crack any interview. Okay, so it doesn't matter whether it's Intel or Google. So it's not like for each and every company you have to, uh, prepare separately. At least at the fresher level, every interview is more or less same by and large. So that's why I have already talked about some of the topics like practicing Verilog code, static timing analysis, computer architecture, clock domain crossing, linting, basics of synthesis, and low power design. If you are quite conversant with that, you can crack any interview. And of course, 5 to 10% will be based on luck, because your performance may be good, but your competitors might be performing even better. So sometimes you need to be patient. But yeah, these are some of the boxes that you need to tick. Just that.
Okay. So if the candidates are good with their basics, and
Of course.
but if the candidates are like working in, let's say, other companies, I mean,
Mhm.
PSUs, let's say, and they want to
Yes, yes.
get into corporate sector like Intel.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
does their gap, I mean, influence? I mean, a gap of
No,
1 year.
not at all. No, not at all. So when you see these kind of tech companies will not see your gap or what you are doing in your BTech, etc. If they see that in your latest college education, for example, if you are MTech, if your performance is MTech in good, and also they see that your fundamentals are strong, then they will hire you. Career gap is not taken into account at all.
So you mentioned on your profile that about the projects that you have done at IIT Bombay, like high performance computing and projects related to microarchitecture and FPGA design.
Yes,
Like, can you please talk about
yes.
those?
Yes, of course. So basically, I was a part of the high performance computing lab. So it was the main focus area of the lab was to, leverage the computing power from FPGA and GPUs. Okay, so which can leverage the parallel computing. Okay, so beyond Moore's law. So in Moore's law, we know that we will kind of shrink the technological nodes, and then we get the performance. But at some point of time, we can't go further because we hit the ceiling. Okay, that is when we have to cash in on the parallelism feature using multiple cores, using GPUs, using FPGA, using multi-threading. So it was the main focus area. And as a part of that, I worked on two accelerators. One was, which was my MTech project. So there I designed one multi-core accelerator, which was specifically designed to efficiently solve very big linear system of equation. For example, if you want to solve 1000 cross 1000 matrix using Gaussian elimination process, right? So then even your fastest processor may actually fail to give you the expected performance. So that is when these kind of chips will literally chip in, and you can exploit this kind of custom hardware to get more performance out of it. And that is why even in case of artificial intelligence, we are seeing companies like Amazon, Google, they are making their custom ASIC chips, right? The TPU, as you told. Yes, so that is for artificial intelligence. So, and another was for crypto accelerator that we mainly did for Elgamal digital signature algorithm, which is mostly used for cryptographic applications, for example, cryptocurrencies. So that was also one FPGA implementation.
So you're mentioning about your projects, right? And you're
Of
also
course,
talking about FPGAs. Like,
FPGAs.
yeah. So in coming future, what do you think the impact that FPGAs would have on the chip industry?
Yeah, of course. Like FPGA is a big part of the HPC that I was talking about. And if you see the big companies like Xilinx, now that is acquired by AMD, and they are trying to come up with very highly efficient FPGAs, right? And not only in the computation, also there is a process of VLSI design that is called emulation. So where we basically implement our design in on an FPGA board to kind of make a replica of the real silicon that will be coming in. So in that case also FPGA plays a very big role, right? And Intel has its own FPGA division that we call Program and Solution Group. It is based on Altera, that is a startup which was acquired in Intel. And other companies like Microsoft, they are also trying to accelerate big data applications using FPGAs. So FPGA will take a very big role on the future of computing, along with GPUs, of course. So yeah, I think FPGA has a very big future.
Yeah, since you know since you have a good knowledge about FPGA design, like,
Hmm.
and you've talked about emulation, right? Like,
Yes.
so from what I know about FPGAs is that they are made up of lookup tables, and
Hmm.
the conventional circuits that we want to build are actually coming out of gates, that transistors that we build.
Of course.
So when we are emulating the design, what could be the differences between the performance analysis that we get from an FPGA emulation when compared to that to our actual implementation?
Yeah.
Like,
So
yeah,
FPGA emulation is not really done, you can say, for performance gain. It is done for validation purpose, right? So what happens is when we do the pre-silicon validation, so then we do it for on a software model, basically, right? So in the real silicon, that may not be the exact replica of the software model, because you can have some gate delays, you can have a lot of physical parameters and physical effect that are coming into picture, right? So now that's why what happens, if we are doing some UVM or OVM based verification, the result that we get, and that is quite different from the result that we get in the post silicon validation, because in the real silicon there will be multiple physical effects. So that is why we do it something in between. Okay, so we do the validation on FPGA board, because FPGA is a real silicon, though they are not made of gate, they are made of lookup table, but it's a real silicon. Okay, so that is why its characteristics are ve- like in a very, has a very close similarity with that of the real silicon. That is the main reason behind doing that. And also there are sometimes some constraints. For example, if you are kind of generating, you can say, very complex design you are trying to verify, right? So and you are generating very complex packet with very complex packet processing, then it takes a lot of time. For example, even in the uh, IPs that I at least worked on, so in those cases, even if you are trying to test for 100 packets, it takes maybe 1 day of simulation time, okay, at the SoC level. Okay, because you are basically doing the computation, right? You are not really sending the packets on real silicon. But if you are doing the same thing on FPGA, you are doing it on the real silicon, so you can get real time results. For example, if you are trying to test with, say, thousands of packets, then FPGA platform is much better in that sense. Yes. Though there are certain limitations. For example, the board area that is taken by the FPGA is much more than the real silicon, because the LUTs will take always much more area than your real gate does. So it depends. Sometimes we have to divide the design across multiple FPGAs instead of one FPGA. So that is the thing.
yeah, and like I know that as you are saying that FPGA are mainly used for emulation, but
Emulation.
yeah, from what I know, they've also got this advantage of reconfigurability.
Of course, of course.
Yeah.
So
So in
that is
what
another
areas,
advantage.
in what ways does this reconfigurability come into picture when you see real-time applications?
Of course. For example, when you make a hardware kind of ASIC, so then it becomes so then it becomes rigid, right? So for example, we just give for example, we are making a chip for Amazon Web Services. Okay, so when we are the vendor, so when we ship that chip, after that Amazon can in no way change that thing, right? Because after 2 years, say if Amazon wants to customize that chip, that is not possible. So there are some sort of programmability with CSR, we call it configuration registered, but 99% of that is rigid. Okay, so that is the reason some companies want FPGA, because they want to customize that chip based on their workload. Okay, for example, companies like Microsoft, they don't really like, the ASICs which are rigid, or so they like it more to implement their own algorithm on programmable chips like FPGA. So that is where it comes to be. It depends on the demand that the user has or the company has. So yeah, that is how it works. But it also needs technical knowledge. For example, if you are shipping a chip as an ASIC, so then the company which is using, the customer doesn't need to have a lot of technical knowledge to deploy that, right? But if you are delivering it as an FPGA, in order to configure that FPGA, in order to implement that FPGA, the customer also need to have a lot of VLSI design experience and knowledge. So that depends.
Yeah, that's cool. And so, like when you were talking about your projects related to this thousand cross thousand matrix related
Mhm.
equations that you were talking about, like were you thinking of any deep learning application to build upon? Or
This part of the solution is not related to deep learning as such, but yeah, even in case of deep learning, if you see, basically it is a matrix multiplication and matrix addition, right? So these kind of accelerators can also be used in deep learning applications, because it is mostly like matrix multiplication. But as far as our application is concerned, we mostly targeted the communication chips, where we need to solve a very large matrix of linear equations. So that is our need actually.
yeah, interesting. And like, can you please talk about the ways that a student can benefit using FPGAs during his learning journey?
Yes, of course. Yes, so unfortunately, whatever is learned in at least most of the Indian colleges, including IITs and IISc, so FPGA is not a big part of that. Mostly we are taught the how the ASIC design is made. Okay, but that doesn't mean that it should refrain you from going ahead and experimenting a few things, because when you are taking the BTech project or MTech project, or as a part of your course project, you can always take up something related to FPGA. And nowadays there are a lot of design contests that you can see. So if you have a good knowledge on FPGA, you can also implement something. So yeah, so if you have interest, I think there are a lot of platforms which you can use to showcase your skill.
Yeah. So talking about platforms, can you please mention all the online resources that you have gone through for your preparation, be it
Yeah.
Intel, be it Google, any online
Yes.
forums, YouTube,
Yes,
playlists,
of
books,
course. Of course.
blogs? Yeah.
So for the books, I used to follow the digital VLSI book by Rabe. That is a very good book, and it was also our textbook when I was doing the MTech. And for the computer architecture, I used to follow Hennessy Patterson book. That is also a very good book, because and in the computer architecture, the most important topics are the memories. Memories means the caching, the virtual memories, all these things, and also the pipelining things. So in the Patterson book, you can see these things are very vastly covered. So that will help you. And for the basic like gate level or BTech level digital, there are multiple books like Galilean, a book by Maurice Mano. You can follow those books. And even if you have some BTech level class notes, which are quite good. For example, in our BTech college, these basic digital circuits were taught by the professor who I used to love really a lot. So I sometimes even follow his notes. Okay, so because it is a kind of concise note which will cover all the things written in the book. So it depends on which you are comfortable with. Yeah, and in everything, like in Lean, in clock domain crossing, static timing analysis, if you just Google it, uh, I am emphasizing on the word Google it, so then you can get a lot of resources. So there is one online resource, I think EDA Playground, which you can use to practice your codes, because it is one free online simulator for that.
So coming to your college life now, you mentioning about peer groups in the beginning of the session. So
Yes.
what were all the extracurricular activities and how was your peer group at IIT Bombay during your 2 years of MTech? What was your experience?
Yeah, so it was really great time, like roaming around in the campus, because it's like, if you see the IIT Bombay campus, it is full of activities. Even at 3 o'clock at night, or say 4 o'clock at night, you can see canteens open, students roaming around, students doing some work in the lab. So it was a really exciting time to be in, and the campus is quite green. So it is, you can say, in the midst of a valley, and just in the bank of the Powai Lake. So it's not about the education, but also enjoying your education. So that is what I really enjoyed in my stay.
Yeah. So I mean that might be quite an interesting journey at IIT Bombay, I guess.
Of course,
So
of
I've
course.
heard that there were some few branches related to VLSI at IIT Bombay. So why did you specifically choose
Hmm.
microelectronics and VLSI branch?
Yeah, so as far as the VLSI branches are concerned, in our time there were only two. One is the microelectronics branch, another was the electronic system branch. Okay, so I choose the microelectronics because it will give you some exposure on the device as well, along with the exposure on digital and analog circuit. And if you go to the electronic system stream, then it will give you exposure to only the circuit design. Okay, so that is the reason. But I think now they have broken it down into two groups. One is the integrated circuit design group, that is only focusing on the circuit, and another is only the device group or microelectronics group. So but by that time it was a, like, microelectronics and VLSI was only one stream. So nowadays I recommend people to go for the integrated circuits and systems group if you want to join the VLSI industry.
So I mean coming from a microelectronics and VLSI branch, as you were saying, you're also accustomed to some device physics. Did you also, I mean, get any opportunities from foundry companies?
Foundry company, no, not really, because foundry companies are mostly outside India, as you see, right?
Okay.
So there are a few companies, like you can say Western Digital, or Global Foundries, where you might get some work related to your device application, or maybe even from Micron. But the quality of work, as I know, is not really great. So if you are in India and if you are trying to join the VLSI industry, then I mean, you have a lot of scope in the design domain, but not so much in the device or application domain. But let's see if things change.
Yeah, we have heard that 130 nanometer fab unit being built by
Yes,
ISMC.
yes. Yes. So yeah, so this India semiconductor mission, that can be a game changer, because the government is playing a big role in incentivizing the companies to build up semiconductor fabrication in India, which will cater to the domestic needs and also create a lot of employment in that field. So I think it's a very good move, very big move. And also, like, so nowadays we have the design centers of most of the biggest companies in the world. For example, Intel, be it Google, Amazon, Nvidia, AMD, everything. But if you talk about the Indian startup, there are quite a few in numbers, and most of them are service based, right? So if the government is incentivizing and incubating the Indian startups also, we can also see a lot of new people coming in and new companies coming in, as we can see in the fintech or edtech sectors. So let's hope for the best.
Yeah, as you mentioned, the semiconductor mission of India is on the rise. So, like, if these startups,
Yes.
I mean, succeed, do you think the opportunities would widen for electronics guys, just as we are having it
Yes,
now for
yes.
the software guys? So, will we be able to
Yes,
reach
yes,
them
of course.
in India?
Of course, I mean, see, the problem with the semiconductor startup is that they need a lot of resources. Okay, because yes, so because even if I talk about the EDA tools or the design automation tools that we use, their licensing fees are quite high. Okay, so that problem also I think India is trying to solve by coming up with maybe some joint collaboration with the companies like Synopsys and Cadence, so that we can provide all those facilities at lower cost for the startups. So getting there, I mean, as we can see there, like we have 100 unicorns in the mostly in the software or e-commerce sectors. So replicating that in the hardware is difficult, but I think there are a lot of scopes to improve from where we are now. So if we have support from the industry as well as government, I can believe, or I can hope that in next 5 to 10 years we will see a lot of product based startups coming out of India.
Yeah, that's insightful. And so, uh, what were all the competitions that you participated in during your MTech or BTech journey related to design, electronic design, or any other extracurricular activities?
Yes. So in the MTech curricular, I mostly you can say focused on my coursework and course projects. Okay. So as a part of course project, we were given some kind of competition. For example, in one of the analog circuit design courses, there was a poster presentation competition. Okay, so in those competitions people from the industries used to come and they used to give us awards and everything. So these kinds of like internal college like college related competitions I of course participated in, but outside the college, like in our time there were not a lot of competitions available. That is why I didn't have the opportunity to do it as much.
Yeah, that's okay. And you have switched from IOCL to do your MTech, right? So can you
Yes,
please
yes,
talk about what was going in your mind when you have joined
yes,
IOCL and when you switched back to MTech?
yes. So yes, so the job of IOCL was good, but as I said, I wasn't getting that kick. So the work was becoming kind of monotonic, and mostly I was doing some kind of work as a supervisor or doing some routine work, paperwork. So and like very basic managerial work you can say. So I thought that no, it is not something that I will be doing in the next 30 years of my life. So then I decided to quit and join IIT Bombay, because the a big advantage of gate score is that it remains valid for 3 years. So using the same gate score, I could manage to get into IIT Bombay next year, and then did 2 years of MTech. And I standing today, I think it is one of the best decisions that I took in my life.
So, for interview preparation for any hardware-based company. So, what are all the
Mhm.
online resources available? Like, can you please mention if any forums, blogs, books, and again the YouTube playlists, if any, like that would help.
Sure, sure. Sure, sure. Okay. So for the books, I would say that you can always read the very good book by Ravi Shankar, that is of coding. Okay. And along with the computer architecture, the Hennessy Patterson book is quite good. You go through the sections of the memory, which will encompass the cache memory and the virtual memory part, and also the pipelining part, and also some introductory part regarding how the performance is measured in a normal CPU and kind of things. And along with that, the digital VLSI designed by Rabe, that is a very good, that is mostly for the MTech level, but if you are say 2 to 3 years of experience, then this book may come handy. And along with that, for the basic digital BTech or gate level, Morris, Mano and Sullivan, and these are good books up to that, to at least know some basics of the verification and the system Verilog constructs. So yeah, these are all you can follow for the preparation.
Yeah, thank you for those supports.
And
Yeah, you wanna
yes, of
mention any?
course. Yes, so and if you need to have any anything that that you want to start, for example, clock domain crossing, linking, then you can go ahead and Google it. Type on the word Google it to see.
Yeah, we'll Google it if we want to refer those. Of course, we have to do it anyway. So, like working as an RTL or RTL designer or IP logic designer at Intel, were you also involved in some sort of verification, or were you working very closely with verification engineers also?
Yeah, so I never really worked in the verification team, but I used to work very closely with the verification, because when you come up with the verification plan, the designers should be there, or say some bug is there, or the verification guy needs to understand some kind of specification more, then always you have to work in the verification team, because at that point of your time they also see how functionally you are. For example, do you at least understand the basics of verification, DFT, or the physical design? So at least maybe one or two questions you can expect from them.
Okay. So coming to your PSU thing now. Like nowadays, I see a lot of
Hmm.
candidates who are in a dilemma, who are prepared for GATE to enter PSUs, because before preparing, they might have thought that they will get settled in PSUs, in government jobs. It was the same in
Hmm.
your case, right? You have joined IOCL and then thought it's better
Of
if I
course.
work in a challenging role. So
Hmm.
for
Of
these
course.
guys, what do you say? Because they, I mean, quite many of them take coaching from coaching centers for gate preparation, especially for these
Hmm.
PSU jobs, to get into government jobs.
Of course.
So what do you suggest
Of
these
course.
guys? Is it better to get into corporate?
Sure. I would say it is more of a personal choice whether you want to get into corporate or whether you want to get into PSU. But the thing is that you have to uh, like really get the kick from inside, that if you are really interested in doing the PSU jump, then of course you should go for that. But if you are not really interested but just doing it for social pressure or parental pressure, then you have to think that I have to spend 30 years with that. So of course you will not just now get some comfort of, see, when you join a PSU job, it is a direct job, right? So for the 2 years you will get the comfort, but if you are doing going for MTech, then for the 2 years it's a kind of rigorous course, and of course kind of uncertainty some people might think of it, right? Because we are not yet earning, we have some family burden, etc. So but you have to think logically that this 2 years of pleasure is more important, or your 30 years of 35 years of service life is more important. So if the answer is yes, that okay, I don't want to join the PSU job because I like it, but due to parental pressure I am doing because of that, then of course you shouldn't do it. But if you really think that I need to work for the government job, there are some advantages, yeah, it suits my personality, etc., then you can go for that. And one thing I can say that, see, 30 years ago when our parents used to work, by that time India's economy was quite different, right? So by that time, if only two corporate firms were there, the top used companies were not there. So by that time government job was the runaway winner in case of job search, right? But nowadays things have changed due to the globalization. A lot of good companies are coming, they are giving very good facilities. Sometimes say that the PSUs give good facilities, but I would say nowadays big companies are giving even more facilities, right? So that is why you have to think from today's perspective, not a perspective that was there 30 years ago by the time of our parents. So yeah, so these are the things that you need to really think about before joining any of the streams.
Yeah, that really helps. I mean, with respect to your perspective,
Yes.
that does help.
Yes.
So, like, I mean, working at Intel, and you have achieved many awards during your work period at Intel. I can see that on your
Yes.
profile, and you've cracked Google. You have done a rigorous MTech degree from IIT Bombay. So, what is it that keeps you focused, and what has been the biggest motivating factor, if you want to mention one?
Sure. So I would love to be a student forever. So basically, I don't want to like get into a job, do that thing, and get some money and enjoy my life. Of course, do enjoy my life, but what I really love is like exploring new things, getting into new domains, learning new things. So a kind of student forever. So I think that is the biggest motivation for me to ahead, so that I never get bored with the work that I am doing. And of course, I do the work that I love. That is one big advantage. So yeah, if you love the job, then working hard is just a pleasure.
Yeah, indeed it is. So, what are your hobbies? Like, what do you usually do in your free time?
Yeah, so earlier it used to be only like reading books. So I love to read story books and books on various topics like non-fiction, finance, and all fictions, of course, and say crime thriller, everything. But nowadays I also do watch movies and web series, and also I love to play and watch cricket. So that all, and also love to spend time with families and friends.
So, Saptarshi, we're almost at the end of the session now. A couple of more
Mm-hmm.
questions before we call it a day. So,
Mm-hmm.
what do you think about VLSI for all, the work we are doing? What's your feedback? What's your opinion on us? Any feedback or any valuable suggestions that you want to give us?
Yeah, I think it's a very great endeavor. So if we see in the software domain, there are a lot of resources available for the same, but in the hardware VLSI domain, I see a very few. So the initiative that you guys have taken, that is really great, and I think you folks are doing a really great job in that. Like, so I also used to follow this for checks and some of the interviews. I was personally benefited by some of the interviews, of course. So yeah, good. The work that you are doing is really great, and I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks a lot. And we are pleased that we have helped you in your endeavor in some or the other way.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank
And
you.
I guess
Thanks a
we
lot.
are also helping other candidates as well who are just preparing
Of
for
course,
something.
yeah. So of
So,
course we help each other to grow so that we grow together.
yeah. So, finally, what's your motivation for all the new college graduates coming out of their BTech or MTech degree who are starting their career
Mhm.
in VLSI or even embedded systems if you take?
Mhm.
So, I mean, you can
Yes,
also
yes.
answer this with a perspective that you had in your mind when you look back when you were a student. I
Mhm.
mean, when you were just coming out of your college.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah. So the first thing that I would say to my younger self is that if you are really interested in a field which is VLS, I don't waste 1 year at PSU. That is my personal perspective. Yes, and second thing I would say that so I see now many freshers, they uh, just the package that the company is offering, but I would say that that is not something which will impact you after 30 years, right? So what you really want to do, what you really want to learn, that is more important. And if you are really strong in your field, and if you are in a field which is itself is growing, then there will be plethora of opportunities for you. Okay, so just don't look at the initial offer or some LPA, some 30 LPA, 40 LPA, not like that. So go somewhere where you can learn a lot, because for the first 8 to 10 years of experience, your learning is more important than your earning, I would say. Because by that time, if you can grow your career, and if you make yourself really skilled, then for the next 20 years you will reap the reward. And otherwise, if you only look at some LPA, then your career will get saturated, right? Because at the senior level, what happens, if you see from a monetary perspective, at each jump, say you become a director from a manager, then your salary just jumps like nothing, right? It can go anywhere. It has no limit. So that is another reason. So yeah, so you need to be motivated by the things you learn, not only the earning part, at least for the first 8 to 10 years of your life.
Yeah, that was insightful and that does really
Mhm.
motivate, I guess, to all the
Mhm.
audience. And
Mhm.
like, thank you, Saptarshi, thanks a lot for joining with us today.
Mhm.
It was quite an interesting discussion that I had with you, and I guess
Thank you.
it should motivate many guys, and it should also give them a confidence that they can even crack Google if they
Mhm. Of course, of course.
learn things in the
Yeah,
right way.
I would say hope soon to everyone.
Yeah. So VLSI for all will always be grateful to you, Saptarshi. Thank you
Yes,
so
of
much.
course. Thanks a
Yeah,
lot.
yeah. So that's it, guys, for this interview. Thank you for joining us today. We'll be back with yet another interesting interviews in coming days. Thank you for joining us. Goodbye.
Bye.
Go get